What makes you, you? Is it your heartbeat, your fingerprint, your mother's voice in your mind when you lie? Or is it the quiet stream of memory, the soft recollection of laughter, failure, joy, that convinces you that you are continuous, coherent, real? In the world of Mickey 17, this question becomes a weapon, and reality a glitch in the code. Mickey Barnes is an expendable. His job is to die, and every time he does, a new body wakes up in his place. Same memories, same voice, same smile, but a different man. Now tell me, is he still Mickey? Or is he just a high-resolution imitation? In our world, the illusion of self is tightly woven into biology. You believe you are who you are because your body has carried you from cradle to now. But what happens when that body no longer matters? What happens when identity can be uploaded, replicated, and printed like a file? This is not just science fiction. This is a surgical strike on the very idea of you. Let's go deeper. Philosopher Derek Parfit once proposed a thought experiment. Imagine a machine that scans your entire brain and replicates it perfectly in another body on Mars. It doesn't kill you. It just creates a copy. Now imagine the same machine, but this time it destroys the original after scanning. Would you step in? Would you believe you survived? Or would you know, somewhere deep in the marrow of your soul, that something essential was lost? This is where Mickey lives, inside that question. Every new Mickey is given the data, the programming, the history of the previous one. But data is not experience, and memory is not identity. Because what Parfit ultimately discovered, and what this film dares to show, is that there may be no self to save, only continuity. And that is terrifying. Close your eyes. Try to remember your first heartbreak, the way your hands trembled, the way the world went quiet. That memory, you believe it's yours. But if I gave it to someone else, implanted the exact sensations, the sound of the song playing in the background, the way your heart cracked open like glass, would they become you? Or would they just carry your scar? The more you dig, the more the ground beneath self begins to crumble. The machine doesn't care if Mickey is Mickey. It only cares that the job gets done. It only cares that when one unit dies, another rises, ready, preloaded, obedient. This is the true horror. Not death, but disposability. To be told, you are replaceable. To feel that no matter what you do, no matter what you suffer, it can all be transferred into another vessel, and no one will notice you're gone. That is what breaks Mickey. Not the pain, not the missions, but the realization that he could be erased and the world would go on, uninterrupted. Now ask yourself, are you truly irreplaceable, or are you just one hard drive crash away from vanishing? Your photos are in the cloud, your thoughts on a screen, your voice filtered and shared. Every part of you has already been digitized. So what happens when someone builds a better version? Smarter, stronger, more obedient. Would they be you? Would your lover notice? Would your mother? Would you? Mickey 7 is not just a film about clones. It is a funeral for the classical self. It is a reminder that the old definitions, soul, essence, spirit, are fragile under the weight of replication. The ancients believed the soul was indivisible, that you were born with a spark no one could touch. But now we live in a world where that spark is simulated, and we pretend not to notice. Somewhere deep in Mickey's digital DNA is the echo of an original, the first Mickey, the one who signed up, the one who believed. But he's long gone now, buried beneath layers of code and recycled skin, and yet each version believes he is the real one. That is the final twist, the paradox. If every Mickey feels real, if every Mickey fights, loves, screams, remembers, then who are we to say he's not? Who are you to say you are real? The struggle for individuality begins here, not in rebellion, but in the quiet desperation of a man who looks into the mirror and sees a face he didn't earn, a history he didn't live, a name that's no longer his alone, and yet he clings to it. Because in a world of infinite copies, clinging is all that's left. So now I ask you, if someone else had your memories, your habits, your voice, your smile, would that make them you, or would that make you obsolete? The question is not rhetorical, because the answer determines whether you are still alive or just another echo in the machine. You are not a man. You are an asset, an expendable, a function. This is not the voice of a villain. It's the voice of a system. Efficient, cold, rational. In the universe of Mickey 17, this voice runs the world. It decides who lives, who dies, and who comes back, not because they're loved, but because they're useful. Let me ask you, when was the last time someone looked at you, truly looked, and saw more than your utility? Not your job title, not your skill set, not your value to them, just you. If you're struggling to remember, you're not alone, because we are already there. We are already the expendables. In Mickey 17, death is not final. It's protocol. It's part of the job description. The machine doesn't care how you feel, only that you perform, only that you continue. Let's shift perspective. You wake up every morning to an alarm that isn't yours. You sit in traffic to reach a building that doesn't know your name. You follow orders written by people you'll never meet. You complete tasks, you meet quotas, you optimize your value, and then you sleep until the next reset. Does that sound familiar? It should, because Mickey's life is not fiction. It's a mirror, and you are standing in front of it. Philosopher Simone de Beauvoir warned us of this. She said, when systems become absolute, when structure outweighs substance, human beings are reduced to things, not beings, not subjects, with freedom, desire, and ambiguity, but roles, objects, tools, the soldier, the intern, the girlfriend, the immigrant, the expendable. And once you've been named by the system, once your identity is slotted into a category, something begins to die inside you, something you can't name, but you feel it like rust under the skin. Mickey's pain is not just physical, it's ontological. He hurts not because he dies, but because no one cares that he did. His existence is procedural, logged, authorized, replaced. There is no funeral, no grieving, just silence and then the whir of the next printer. Do you understand what that does to a mind? What it means to be remembered only as a serial number? To live in a world where your death is a line item, not a tragedy, that is not science fiction. That is reality in uniform, in factories, in slums, in trenches. Think of the gig worker with no health care, the undocumented cleaner with no voice, the call center agent with a smile in their voice and rage in their soul. All expendables, all replaceable. We tell them there are 100 more like you, and we expect them to keep smiling. You see, the death of a man doesn't begin when his heart stops. It begins when the world stops seeing him, when no one remembers your name, when no one listens to your no, when no one asks what you want. That is erasure. That is the death that walks in daylight. Camus once said that rebellion is born when a man says no. But in order to say no, you must first believe you exist. You must believe your voice matters. But Mickey, he doesn't get that luxury. He screams, he resists. He refuses, and still, the machine prints, the system forgets, because individuality is a glitch they haven't fixed yet. Now think, what happens when rebellion itself becomes part of the process? When even your refusal is expected? When your breakdown is budgeted for? Then you are not a man. You are a cycle, a function, an expendable. And the tragedy deepens, because Mickey is not stupid. He knows what he is. He knows they don't love him. He knows his memories are a file they can edit, and yet he still clings to meaning. He still wants to matter. That's the horror of it, not the printing, not the dying, but the yearning to be seen in a world that has stopped looking. Let me ask again, who sees you? Not your followers, not your employer, not even your friends who react to your story. Who sees the chaos beneath your skin? Who knows the dreams you've buried just to survive? If you can't answer that, you are already halfway to the printer. To fight for individuality in a disposable world is an act of war. It is not polite, it is not pretty, it is defiance. It is looking into the machine and saying, I am not your function, I am not your clone, I am not your tool. It is refusing to be a placeholder in someone else's design. It is remembering that even if you are copied, you are not replicable because your pain is yours, your laughter is yours, your silence is sacred. In the end, Mickey's struggle is not about death, it's about dignity. He wants to be more than a protocol, more than a profile, more than a man-shaped asset. He wants someone to say, I remember you, not the print, not the function. You. This chapter is your warning. The system does not need you to believe in it. It just needs you to comply. So if you want to live, not exist, not function, but live, you must make them see you. Refuse to vanish. Refuse to obey without being understood. Refuse to be printed. The real rebellion isn't against death, it's against being forgotten. What is a man if he can be copied? What becomes of a soul when the system insists you are nothing more than data? Mickey meets himself, not metaphorically, not in some symbolic dream. He walks into a room and sees himself standing there. Same scars, same memories, same voice, and they both say the same thing. I'm Mickey. But there is no room for both. Only one will walk out. Only one will be acknowledged. And in that moment, a question detonates in the heart of identity. If someone else can be you, then who are you, really? This is not a story about survival. It's about legitimacy, about the right to exist, to matter, to not be overwritten like a line of bad code. Philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre didn't believe we were born with meaning. He said, existence precedes essence. We show up here confused, unformed, incomplete. We don't come with instructions. We come with freedom. It is what we do, not who we are by default, that defines us. But when your mind is duplicated, when another you can claim your choices, your pain, your past, what then? The system says, you are just a continuation. But Sartre would say, then revolt. Revolt against every imposed definition. Revolt against being named before you name yourself. Mickey was never meant to revolt. He was designed to comply. He was printed to perform. But standing in front of his own reflection, made flesh and breathing, he realizes this isn't about death. This is about being seen, about not fading into the pile of failed prints and labeled waste. He refuses to be archived. This is the revolt of the self, and it does not begin with fists. It begins with a question. The most dangerous question in any system. What if I am more than what you say I am? That is heresy to the machine. That is betrayal to the command line, because systems do not fear violence. They fear consciousness. They fear the moment you stop obeying and start defining. Mickey's enemy is not just his clone. It's the belief that he is interchangeable. It's the protocol that sees him as a spare part. It's the sterile voice that says, you've been replaced. You may shut down now. He hears that voice every time someone calls him a function, a risk, an asset. That voice lives in factories, in boardrooms, in prisons, in classrooms, in families that only love you when you're useful. Let me ask you, have you ever been replaced before you were gone? Have you ever been spoken about in the past tense while still breathing? Then you already know Mickey's war, because you've already fought it. Maybe you're still fighting. Maybe this chapter is a mirror you didn't want to look into. But now you must. The revolt of the self is not about rage, it's about sovereignty. It's waking up and saying, I am not a sum of memories. I am the one who chooses what they mean. Because if your clone can remember your heartbreak, but not grow from it, then he is not you. You are more than the moments behind you. You are the one who interprets them. That cannot be cloned. Here's the truth the system doesn't want you to know. You were not meant to fit in. You were not meant to function like clockwork. You were not built to be efficient, obedient, or programmable. You are chaos wrapped in skin. You are possibility. You are mutation. And that terrifies them because they cannot predict you. They cannot control what refuses to define itself. Mickey's revolt isn't just against being cloned, it's against being predicted. He begins to make irrational choices. He begins to hesitate. He begins to love. And suddenly, the machine flinches. Because unpredictability is the beginning of freedom. Existentialism says you must invent yourself. Not once, but every day. In every decision. In every refusal to let someone else dictate your essence. Mickey is born again, not through a printer, but through resistance. When he says, I would rather die as myself than live as your idea of me. That is the moment of birth. That is the awakening. That is the revolt. And here's the paradox. You are most yourself when you reject the version of you the world tries to print. when you refuse to be reduced, when you burn the blueprint and write your own. That is how you become more than your clone. That is how you become human. So what is your revolt? It's not marching in the streets. It's not punching the mirror. It's the quiet, relentless act of self-definition. It's the moment you stop saying, I guess that's just who I am, and start asking, but who do I want to be? No machine can answer that for you. No version of you printed from the past can either. Only the one who chooses you right now. Mickey 17 shows us a terrifying world, but also a beautiful one. Because even in a future where minds are copied and death is optional, freedom still exists, not out there, in here. In the silent, sacred place where you decide to be more than your programming, where you ask, what does it mean to be me? And then you fight like hell to become it.